Hey everyone, Notorious here. Welcome back to my channel. In this episode, I will be discussing the Spanish bowline. Additionally, I will teach you, the viewer, two different, easy, memorable, and quick ways for tying this double loop knot. Here on the table, we have two completely tied Spanish bowline. The resulting knot is exactly the same for both. However, each one was tied differently. This Spanish bowline was tied using the rope doubled over onto itself in the form of a long bight with no access to the ends of the rope. This Spanish bowline was tied with the rope initially doubled over onto itself in a long bight, but using a different tying method that requires access to the ends of the rope. In order to tie the Spanish bowline without access to the ends of the rope, first take your rope and double it over onto itself, creating a long bight like this. The next step is to take this bight and fold it over onto the two strands below it. Next, take this left loop and cross it over the right loop like this. The next step, once you have this created, is to take this strand and start pulling some length out while twisting like this at the same time, okay? And put it over the top of the loop below it. Do the same thing to this strand. Pull out and twist at the same time. Okay. If you've done this correctly, the resulting, pre-finished knot at this point should look exactly like this. If you've tied it correctly, this is what it will look like. The final step is actually quite fun to do and really satisfying. You take this strand and pull them outward. Ta-da! Now you have a Spanish bowline. To tie a Spanish bowline with a shorter amount of rope or cord, which will allow you to have access to the end, and by that I mean the final step of this tying method involves pulling the majority of this length here through a opening in the knot. And if you have a really long rope, like a 100-foot rope or something, or more, it's really not practical to tie it this way because you would have to pull that entire length through that opening to complete the knot. So the previous method is ideal for long ropes, and this one is for shorter amounts of cord. So again, you're going to start by folding the cordage all over onto itself. Make sure that the ends are at the same length. The next step is to create a twist, or a crossover rather, like this. And interestingly, when you do that, that bight, it's a bight now, but as soon as I do this, where it intersects like that, it becomes technically a loop. So now take that loop and bend it over onto, the two strands below it. This results in a pretzel shape, and you have this triangular opening in the center. Keep that open. The next step is to wrap the legs, or the I guess the tails over into the middle between both loops, okay? So like this, and put it into the back right behind the triangle. You see it? The triangle is there, put it behind, and then open up these two strands and put your fingers in there and grab those two tails. And now, before you pull those strands through that triangular opening, you're going to need to capture the loops here to make sure that your knot doesn't collapse and that you are able to complete it accurately and properly. So now I'm going to pull the tails through and pull, dress and set it. Ta-da! That is method number 2. All right, excellent. You've just learned 2 quick, easy, and memorable methods for tying the Spanish bowline. Let's discuss some of the ways that it can be used. The Spanish bowline has 2 loops, and both loops are fixed. In other words, they don't slip or slide when you apply weight to them. All right? Once you've set the size of the loops, finished the knot, dressed it, and set it, you can expect confidently that these 2 loops will maintain whatever size you gave them. And keep in mind that it's very easy, if you need to make one of the loops bigger or smaller than the other loop. This makes the Spanish bowline ideal for use with something known commonly as a Y-hang. If we take a look at this knot, it is clearly in a Y shape when built into a Y-hang. One loop is affixed using a carabiner to a fixed anchor point on, let's say, for example, a big wall or a rock wall somewhere. If there's one fixed anchor here, in this case a bolt with a hanger, connect that with a carabiner, we can then take this loop and connect it to another fixed anchor, another bolt with a hanger, and connect it with a carabiner. And the beauty of this is, let's say a 150-pound climber then gets onto one or both of these strands. Their body weight is going to be equalized between the 2 anchor points. And that means with a 150-pound climber, each loop is only going to be experiencing roughly 75 pounds of force. And that is really great. Why? Because that's a lot safer than if you were to be using a single loop knot and descending on the one strand. That loop would have a much greater chance of failing compared to an arrangement where the climber's body weight is being equalized between 2 loops. Another great thing about this loop knot is that if this is being used as a Y-hang, then by having these 2 strands at the same exact length, a climber can get onto, like I just said, either one of the strands, and that's really great because you can then use the second strand with either a third hand, like a friction hitch, or a fall protection device like an ASAP by Petzl or something similar. But also a climber could use both strands, put both strands into either their ATC, or they could use a figure 8 or rescue 8 style descender. Both would work. Another way that this knot can be used is, let's say you have a boat. You can put these two loops over two of the, I don't know what they're called, pylons, or the things that stick up at the dock that you tie ropes around. I don't know what to call it, but I think you all know what I'm talking about. You can put it around two of those and then secure the bow of your boat, and then the stern of your boat. So you can keep it like that, and then it would be equalized. The Spanish bowline can also be used in a huge range of different other applications that I haven't touched on in my brief discussion. For the sake of not talking everyone's ear off and keeping the video as brief as possible, despite having an enormous amount of information and education to provide, I realize a lot of other knot tying channels mostly focus almost exclusively on how the knot is tied. I've already made a video for basically every important knot that you would probably ever use in your lifetime already in my earliest videos. I now am going to be revisiting every single one of these videos, every single one of these knots, and not just showing how it's tied, but also giving the viewer as much education and information and methodology and techniques as I possibly can in each video. Sure, knowing how to tie a knot is hugely important. You wouldn't be able to use them if you didn't know how to tie them. However, more important than the tying is understanding how many ways a knot can be used, understanding as many of those ways as you possibly can, learning about the physics of knots and how they are used in different ways that apply forces and unique and interesting fashions. Knots are tools, and if you don't have the right knot for the right job, and if you want to use a knot but all you really know is how to tie it, you're going to be at a profound disadvantage compared to someone who takes the time to learn as much as they possibly can about each knot and how they are used. All right, I've gone on long enough. Thanks so much for watching. Please hit that subscribe button. I would be so grateful. And be sure to select all notifications in the drop-down bar for the subscription button. That way, every time I drop a new video, you will be the first to know. Again, I can't thank you enough for watching my video. I hope you've learned something, and I hope that you now know a lot more than before you watched this video. Be sure to check out my channel for more hitch how-tos, knot tutorials, and climbing videos. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye.